Hey everyone, Miss MC here. This is guide for round 10 of the Nations Cup again. Let's get this started. Use the 100 meter mark as your first braking point. Just try to get the car to rotate as quickly as possible, and the moment your car is pointing where you want to go, you can start to fully accelerate. For Eau Rouge, you can easily take it flat out, so what you want to do is get on the curb that is on the left, just trying to open yourself up for the right-hander. Then turn right when the curb on the left ends, and then try to make the most out of this curb on the left, and just try to take Eau Rouge in as straight of a line as possible. Use the start of the curb on the left as your next braking point. Brake hard for a moment, gently ease off of the brakes as you turn in, and these next couple of turns are all about throttle control. Try to bring yourself to the left side of the track, ease off the throttle for this right turn, and when you hit the apex, you can go back to full throttle. Then brake when the curb on the left starts again. Just try to bring yourself all the way to the inside of the turn, gradually accelerate. You want to brake a little bit early for this turn. You'll use some braking, just try to get as close as you can to the apex without hitting the green bollards. Look for the 50 meter sign as you'll brake just after you pass it. Brake hard for a very short moment, slowly ease off of the brakes, then slowly accelerate so you don't end up hitting the AstroTurf. Use the shadow of the sign as your next braking point. Brake hard for a moment, gently ease off of the brakes, then do some throttle control as you go through these next two turns. Just gently accelerate your way out of this turn, bring yourself to the left and brake before the curb on the left starts. Just focus on getting the car to rotate as quickly as possible, then fully accelerate even through this right corner. This turn can easily be taken at full throttle. Then bring yourself to the left side of the track and use the 150 meter mark as your final braking point. You'll be braking hard for a short while, gently ease off of the brakes as you turn in. Try to nail these apexes, try to get the car to rotate as quickly as possible. Straighten up the car, then fully accelerate. That is all for the lap guide. Let's go ahead and talk about the strategies. For this qualifying session, you have 6 minutes, not 5, to try to get a good qualifying time. Either way, whether it's 5 or 6 minutes, you'll only have 2 chances to try to get that good qualifying time. Slipstream will come into use since you have 2 long high-speed sections, so you want to try to make the most out of it so you can further improve your qualifying time. The tire wear rate isn't too high, so if you want to just go for it and just try to get your laps out of the way as soon as you can do that. But if you want to take care of them for a little bit as you go through your outlap, you can do that as well. For those using the hybrid vehicles, you need to make sure that the batteries in your car are fully charged before you exit the final turn. For some cars, you don't really need to do anything different, but for others, like the newer R18, you do need to give yourself some time to charge them up. So when you approach the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps sign that is coming up right here, that is when you want to start to press on the brakes and the throttle at the same time to charge up the car's batteries. You really need to do that for the R18 since those batteries take longer to charge. You kind of need to do that for the TSL30, which is the car you're seeing right now, since the batteries don't fully charge up when you brake as usual for the final turn. The TSL50 is a bit of an exception. That one, the batteries charge pretty quickly, so you don't have to worry too much about making sure that the batteries are fully charged. This will also be a bit of a problem for the R18, the newer one, since the energy goes out much quicker than what comes in through the use of braking. So in reality, you only have one chance to try to get that good qualifying time. If you mess up your first qualifying time in the R18, you can always start to slow down at that Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps sign that I mentioned earlier. Just try to recharge the batteries so you can get another chance at trying to get a good qualifying time for the second lap, but just make sure you don't get in anyone's way because you're going to end up getting some people really mad at you if you do end up getting in their way. But overall, whether it's 5 or 6 minutes, as what you saw in the start of this section of the video, you're only going to get 2 chances to try to get that good qualifying time. For this race, fuel is nothing to worry about. All you have to worry about are the tires. So racing hard, medium, and soft tires are required to be used in this race, so make sure that you use all 3 tire compounds at some point in the race so you don't end up getting a 1-minute penalty after the race ends. So this is going to be a bit of an interesting race because 2 and 3 stops are viable. If you go for the 2 stop, you want to use racing soft tires for 8 laps, racing medium tires for 7 laps, and then racing hard tires for only 1 lap. Your goal is to try to use the racing hard tires for 1 lap since those tires give you the worst pace throughout this track. If you go for the 3 stop, you want to do 7 laps on racing soft tires, another 7 laps on racing soft tires, then just 1 lap on racing medium, and another 1 lap on racing hard tires. Both strategies give out pretty close results, but the faster one is going to be the 3 stop. It's going to be a slightly faster strategy. The thing that you want to make sure that you do is fight as little as possible. And one of the odd things is that because there are going to be so many possible strategies and tire combinations that can be done, you want to try, at least on the 3 stop, you want to try to pit at a certain time where you're not pitting in with other people or end up pitting out into a bunch of traffic. So that's going to be a bit of the challenging part that you'll need to try to figure out during the race. Since this is a Group 1 race and you can choose any car from that class, I took a couple of cars out and tried them out, especially in a custom race since that has less variables so you can get better test results. So with the TSL30, which is the car that you're seeing here, you can actually get 10 laps out of this car on the racing soft tires. So if you're a bit more concerned about trying to make the tires last, this is a car that you can definitely take a look at. However, there are a couple problems with the TSL30. So the first one has to do with its batteries. So even though the batteries can charge up really fast through the use of braking, it also depletes really fast, so there could be a couple of turns where you don't have the battery charge that you need to accelerate quickly out of those corners. The other thing has to do with the boost itself from the batteries. It's not that great. I would say it's a bit more of like a medium boost, so it's weaker than that of the TSL50 and the newer R18. And last but not least, its pace is not all there, so even though your tires can last a little bit longer, your pace overall is going to be a bit slower. So if you are racing against those on the TSL50 or the 908 HDI, you're going to be struggling to be able to keep up with them. The second car we're going to take a look at is the newer R18, and sorry for not having a racing clip of it. I did do the testing for it, but I forgot to save the replay, so well done, Mista. But anyways, so with this car, when you do your first lap or 2, you're going to be going really fast because the boost that comes out of the batteries is really darn strong, to the point where the car starts to understeer because the boost is so strong. However, when you don't have the boost, especially as you go from round lap 2, 3, and so on, you're going to become a sitting duck. So the thing is that with this car, the battery is charged slowly and it depletes really fast. So you're going to have a hard time trying to keep those batteries have any charge, as when you go through even a little bit of a straight, the batteries are going to start to deplete. So because of that, you'll be using less and less of that battery charge throughout the race, which means that you'll have a harder time trying to keep up with the pace, especially as you come out of some of the slower corners. And once again, you're going to become a sitting duck and your pace is going to suffer as the race goes on. So while this car might be good for time trial and for qualifying, it's not going to do you that much good when you go through the actual race itself. And just to hammer in this point, this is starting the second lap on the time trial mode, and I barely have any charge left, so my car is going to be going much slower through the straight, through Eau Rouge, as I go through the second lap. So the R18 can do 8 laps on the racing soft tires, as well as this car, the Toyota TS050. And this is actually going to be one of the better cars to use in this race for both qualifying and the actual race itself. So the batteries will be easier to manage in this car as it charges up faster than what it depletes. So it's possible that you don't end up running out of the batteries at any point during the entire race. So the other good thing about this car is that the boost from the batteries is really fast, so you can fly out of the lower speed corners. The other good thing is that this is a handling car, so it'll do really well when you go through the twistier bits of Spa, but when it comes to the top speed department, it's going to struggle a little bit since it doesn't have the power on 6th gear to try to get itself up to 200 miles an hour. But either way, this is still a good contender. So if you're still thinking about a car that you want to use for this race and you don't want to worry too much about running out of the battery charge, take a look at the TS050, as this is definitely a good contender for this race. And finally, the last car that we're going to be taking a quick look at is the Puja 908 HDI. And unlike the other cars that we took a look at earlier in the video, this car is not a hybrid, so you don't have to worry about managing the batteries. This car is all about speed, as it can easily go over 200 miles an hour. When you go through the twistier bits of the track, it does an okay job. It's not the best, but it can still hang in there. However, you do have to be a bit more careful with this car. So because this is a power car, you do have to brake a little bit earlier than what you saw in the lap guide for the R18, since, well, obviously you're going over 200 miles an hour, so you have to brake a little bit earlier for that. Especially if you're under slipstream, you do need to brake even earlier, or if your tires are getting worn, you have to brake even earlier, or a combination of both slipstream and tire wear. You have to brake pretty darn early so you can make sure that you don't end up overshooting your braking zones into the corners, so you don't end up making yourself look silly or even end up punting the car that is ahead of you. You do get a bit of wheel spin when you're coming out of some of the lower speed corners, so you want to be a bit more careful about that. So that's a lot to take in, especially for one race and for a video this long. So let's go ahead and quickly summarize everything that we talked about in this video. So you can 2 or 3 stop this race, and you want to try to 3 stop this race, as you can get slightly faster results in the 3 stop compared to the 2 stop. The TS030 is good on the tires, as you can do 10 laps on the racing soft tires, but the pace isn't all there. The newer R18 can get you a fast time on time trial and qualifying, but when it comes to the race pace itself, the lack of battery charge throughout the race will leave you a sitting duck, which can get you overtaken by other cars. The Toyota TS050 can definitely hang out here, as even though it might not have the highest top speed here, it'll definitely make up for it when you go through the twistier bits of the track. It is also easier to manage the batteries, so you don't have to worry too much about running out of the hybrid batteries when you need it. And last but not least, the Peugeot 908 HDI. It is basically the opposite of the TS050. It's there when it comes to the top speed sections, but when it comes to the handling, it starts to fumble around a little bit. And you want to be a bit more careful with this car when the tires really start to show signs of tire wear. But that is pretty much it for this guide. Hopefully this guide makes it a little bit easier for you to determine which car you want to use and which tire strategies you want to use for this race. But I'm going to go ahead and sign off now. So this is Mr. MCA wishing you a good race, and I'll see you in the next video.